One. Hello.
Welcome back.
My name's Nicole.
My name's Megan.
And we are the Synchronicity Sisters. Welcome to our YouTube channel, in Megan's word, /podcast. We work in relationship consciousness. We pretty much change your brain to change your life. We help you rewire your brain.
If you want more information, we have Instagram, podcasts, website, work with us, do all sorts of things, get in touch, get in contact.
Change your brain.
Yeah. Just like we have. So we're here to tell you all the tricks and tips and psychological science on how we changed our lives and are better functioning, happier human beings. So today we're going to talk about the stages of a relationship, which I think like everybody kind of has an idea of, even if it's not like fully conscious, but we just wanted to elaborate on like the different phases and what's important in those phases to like understand and maneuver. Yeah, you want to start?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, especially like in the world we currently live in, like relationships can be like start off very aggressive now because like hookup culture and stuff, like people, it's like really extreme, but the psychology behind it are still the same. Like it takes time. So typically 0 to 3 months. So from the time you meet to up to about the 3-month marker, 90 days, they consider what they call the honeymoon stage. So this is where you guys are really getting to know each other. You're talking about like yourself per se and making sure that that other person aligns with what you see your future. And if the words and actions are lining up, it's really like where in the very beginning, it can be very, what's the word, like anxious driven, like because you're trying to like get to know each other. But then around 90 days is when like true colors, you can't fake it anymore.
Right.
And so true colors start to come out and you start to see the person for who they are. And that's really within that 90 days, you get to decide if you want to continue the relationship and move into the next stage, or if you want to go ahead and cut it off and find someone new.
Well, and when we did the podcast on situationships that talks about like the science behind hookup culture and why it's making relationships fail, it goes along with the honeymoon phase. If you guys do have a lot of sexual chemistry, it will last during the honeymoon phase. But if there's not a strong foundation built, it won't move into the next phase, which is the imperfect stage, which is 3 to 6 months. So for the first 3 months, it's all basically like fun and games. You know, there's sex, there's this, there's that. But about month 3 is when women start to feel used because they want commitment and they're high on oxytocin. So they're basically like think they're in love with somebody because they don't understand true intimacy. And men get bored and feel guilty because they're done. Their conquest is over. The chemistry has faded. Their vasopressin levels never got high enough to actually fall in love. So at month 3, you really see whether a man had high vasopressin when you slept with him or if he didn't. And if you don't know about vasopressin, we did a podcast on it. So go back through our podcast.
We talk about vasopressin like every single episode. So
yeah. And vasopressin essentially, I can explain it a little bit, goes with testosterone, and it's the male bonding hormone. Females bond through oxytocin. Now, males do too. But vasopressin, which is the withholding of sex, because remember that men falling in love is a lot more complex because men are willing to die for what they love. So by nature, it is more complex for them to fall in love. They have to make sure that essentially you're worthy of their life. And if you're not deemed worthy, then you're just a conquest. You are not part of their territory or are not deemed worthy of pair bonding. And it sounds really harsh, but it's just a fact. I mean, men give, protect, and cherish, and part of giving is that they will give their lives for those that they love. And if you are not a woman that is virtuous or willing to have boundaries with that man, then you don't have boundaries with other men. And so you're threatening his life because you have multiple mates and he's not going to know if it's his baby. This is all unconscious and just instinct wise, right? He does not going to know if it's his child because he can't trust you. he can't trust you out with your friends because if you had sex with him the first night, he's going to think that you're easy to get in bed with. But if you make him wait and you essentially he sees you as a valuable human and someone that he can trust, things that men and women have to work for, they value more. And so when you don't even know somebody and you jump in bed with them, that programs into their brain for the rest of the relationship, essentially, that well, it wasn't hard for me to sleep with her, so it won't be hard if we're having a hard space in our relationship for her to just go sleep with somebody else. It's a thing. And actually, even men can flip this on women. When you think of some of the great seducers that were men, if you read Robert Greene's book, The Art of Seduction, some of the men that flip this on women and would say no to them because women are so used to being the no in sex and the controllers of sex. It actually was one of the biggest manipulation tactics men ever learned because it just totally flipped the psychology. And women were like, wait, what? You're going to say no to me? Because we were used to having so much power in that area. So even men, if I don't have sex with women that you don't deem worthy of your life, do everybody a favor on both sides and say no until there's something built there, because casual sex is not good for men or women. Women pay in the short term, but men pay in the long term. We are, as women, our emotional fields get all fucked up, but for men, it literally will cost you your life in the long run because you don't have an anchor woman. So you just collapse into hedonism and die after andropause. So
that was a very long explanation of vasopressin.
It was.
But it was very to the point at the same time.
Yeah, and oxytocin, we bond immediately, right? As soon as, if his penis goes in your mouth, so don't give a guy head unless you want to bond to him, anus or vagina, you're bonded. You release massive amounts of oxytocin, you're pair bonded, and you're along for the ride. Whatever he chooses to do, dick you around, sleep with other women, your threshold then just grew because you're bonded. Anytime you see, smell, or hear him, sorry, girl.
AKA the dick sand.
You are in dick sand, and you are not processing correctly. So women, and we're going to do a podcast on this next, actually, but women that don't love themselves give to men early. So they have sex before they're essentially ready, or especially emotionally. And then you're in the dick sand and see you later. So
yeah, and the dick sand can be dick goggles and dick sand. You're in it. It's a fascinating, scary place to be. Let's just say that much.
Oxytocin is some good shit.
It is. So between 3 and 6 months is really where the imperfect stage is. You really get to see if the relationship is worth fighting for, if both parties are showing up. You're really starting to see this is usually where couples will start to fight a little bit, and
right.
One person may want one thing and someone wants another, and there's a lot of back and forth. Well, that's showing you that there is some form of healthy or unhealthy attraction that's happening. There's a push and pull between the two of them. And so that's usually when you're really establishing do I want to continue to fight for this relationship? Do I want to continue to show up for this relationship? Is this person worth 51% valuable in my life?
Yeah, and that's a rule of thumb for us. It's if somebody's 51% valuable, you keep them. Because,
yes.
Again, relationships are difficult. Nobody's perfect.
No.
There's going to be things that absolutely drive you crazy about your partner in any relationship. I mean, even as siblings, I do shit all the time that annoys Nicole, and she does shit that annoys me. But, that's also just part of acceptance of, the imperfections. Is this something that I can live with? And
when
so,
you click your fingernail,
I don't even notice that I do it.
I know, and I always look at you. It's just
but it's just really important that, and this is why a lot of relationship coaches say don't have sex if you actually want a very stable relationship until you get into the imperfect phase, or maybe even longer. Because when you have sex, friendship ends. The friendship's over, as you lose your negotiation tools. Well, not lose them, but they're not as effective because once you're on oxytocin, you're just willing to give more. Mm-hmm. And when a feminine energy is in giving, she's in her masculine. So before we're bonded, we just have a clearer mind. So, you can sleep in bed with somebody, like stay the night, hand jobs, tinkering, making out, touching, like all of those things are fine. What?
The F word.
Fingering?
It's like blood bag or blood. What do you call it? A blood sack?
No, it was so funny the other day because like somebody said finger bang and I was like, what?
Oh my God.
I was dying. I was like, who the hell says finger bang? But whatever.
I mean, here we are.
You get the picture.
Yeah, have fun. Just,
I mean, could have fun doing that.
Here we are.
But anyway, there's just like, people forget that the biggest part of sex is actually sensuality. It's not sexuality. And, just fucking or having sex is not a spiritual experience. Even if, a lot of people online say that it is. It's not. God's not involved in your relationship if you're not taking care of yourself. And having sex on the first date and just like not having any kind of care or boundaries or self-love or anything is, in my opinion, there's no spiritual aspect to that. It's actually in the knowing what you want, need, and desire, knowing where you want your life to go, and having somebody that aligns with that. You're not going to know in the first like 5 minutes. Also, or like at a bar when you're drunk.
If you're doing this, please go back to our hedonist versus stoic podcast, because you are a hedonist and you are living in the material plane for physical pleasure.
Yeah.
And that will be more elaborated in that podcast because that's a thing there.
Well, and like our mentor always says, like women that give men cheap sex are killing men. And I
hate them. We need men. Stop killing men.
And I thought that was very extreme until I saw the science behind it. And we'll do more podcasts on it. But there's actual scientific data of like, if men don't have a woman, like you can't name one man that is over the age of 55 that does not have a woman in his life that is still alive, whether it be a daughter, a mother, a sister, some kind of feminine energy that keeps him alive. Because once they go through andropause, if there is not feminine energy, they will die. They will collapse into hedonism and they will die. And that was actually so fucking enlightening to me of like, oh wow, no, this isn't just about like me taking care of myself. It's me really understanding how important relationships are and how important stable, very loving, intimate, deep relationships are for both sexes. Women can live their whole life as a spinster and like whatever, we'll survive, but men won't. Yeah. And so you're doing a service to humanity when you have self-love and you're grounded into your wants, needs, and desires, understanding what we're giving to the masculine is the feminine. And, I love having strong masculine in my life. Like, I mean, hugging a grounded masculine man, there's nothing like it.
It's so nice.
I mean, they just make the world make sense.
Yeah.
Because the feminine is just, we just have a lot of feelings and there's a lot going on. And they can just ground energy. I had actually had this experience last night when I was like talking about one of my ayahuasca ceremonies. And I was like, yeah, and I thought my best friend was going to die and it was really did it. And I was like going back into the energy. And the guy hugged me and was like, and I was like immediately like, oh, it's fine. Okay.
That was a gnarly ayahuasca.
It was so gnarly. I cried like the whole night. But anyway.
Wait, what's that? Yeah, that was, yeah.
That was your first.
That was,
ceremony?
That was like the experience of, that was like our first we got into our first real sister fight.
Oh, no, it wasn't really a fight. I was just hungry and tired.
Really mad at me.
Well, no. You were hungry and I was tired. Projector, I want to sleep.
She was so mad.
Man-gen,
I was like, no.
I want to eat.
We have to eat now. Anyways, that's a totally different podcast for a different time. Anyways.
My point in saying that is just like how important the two different energies are and how much they truly do complement each other when given the opportunity and given the understanding. But that brings us to 6 to 9, and this is the negotiation phase. So if you've made it through the honeymoon phase, you've made it through the imperfect phase, this is the negotiation phase, and this is when you negotiate time, sex, play, and money. And you go through and you go, okay, like, what's your vision for life? What's my vision for life? Are we going to get married? Are we going to have kids? Are we just going to be mated? Like, what does our life look like together? And this is what most people miss, right? Because this is the phase that's not really intuitive. It is like, you might do it, but you might like face plant through it because you don't have like a conscious understanding of what you're actually doing. And the feminine guides communication. So we're the ones that have to be like, hey, baby, what do you think about like going through this?
Hey, where is this boat going?
Yeah. Like,
are we going to sink? Are we going to float? What is happening?
Like, what? We've decided that we like each other and that this is solid. Now, what do you want?
But don't ask him that.
What do you want?
To ask him what his vision is.
You can ask him what he thinks or what he wants.
Yeah, but like, you know, sometimes you got to kind of like...
You just can't ask him how he feels.
Elaborate a little bit more other than what do you want. Yeah, no. Where do you see this going? Like, what do you think about this overall, you know?
Yeah, we actually have a contract that we put our clients through that goes over all of this, that we sit down with the couple and say like, okay, what do you see this? What do you see that? Blah, 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 blah. Yep. So that you know, and this contract is actually something that if you do get mated or married or whatever, that you negotiate that you do it every 3 months for the first year, every 6 months for the second, and then once a year after that. So, you know, you go through this entire like understanding because people change and move, and like that's like the
it's the ebb and flow of a relationship.
Yeah. And the first 2-3 years is really like you're setting a foundation, and after that it's pretty much flow state. You have to check in once a year and like things, and you know, we make sure that our clients are going, if they are in a couple, that they're going out to dinner once a week, like having a date, having sex at least a couple times a week. Like these things have to be talked about and they have to be conscious. You know, if you're not having sex twice a week, unless you're like super sick or like they're out of town, we got a problem. You know, that's a very, very, especially to men, you know, emotionally it's important for us, but physically it's important to them. And so many women are like, well, you know, my husband's cheating on me. He stopped sleeping with me, da 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 da. And I'm like, no, he's just monogamous with his mistress because you stopped having sex with him. So it's a really interesting, like, psychological thing. Men think you're having sex with somebody else if you're not having sex with them. So
quite literally, they will tell you that too.
Yeah.
They will literally flat say.
That's because the male brain, and we did a class on the male brain, but, you know, you can go to our website and get that if you want to know more about the male brain, but their brains literally say, I need sex or I will die. Mm-hmm. So they think that our brains do that because life is essentially a projection. And so they're like, you're not living with sex, like you're living without sex, then, you know,
how are you not dead?
How are you not dead? Yeah. But anyway, so once you get past the negotiation phase, then your 1 year true commitment, like now you're in it.
Now you're in an actual relationship.
This is when the relationship truly begins.
The game.
You are pair bonded essentially, and now game on. I hope you have the tools to be able to make it long term, but the foundation is officially built at a year. I think we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, and you know, our next podcast, we're going to go a little bit more into kind of elaborating on the feminine side. But if you are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share, comment. Spotify or Apple, we always love a review. Click that little star at the very top. And until next time, bye.